This is Movies, a podcast about the act of cinema. And with me today, of course, is the Dante, or would I be the Dante, to my Randall, Hans, the J to my Silent Bob.
Yeah, wait, no. I'm the other one. I don't want to be Dante, he dies.
Well, there goes that for anyone who hasn't seen Clerks 3. Hey, you know what? Welcome back to the show, Hans. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Just finished watching it like half an hour ago and have a lot to say.
A lot to say. You've been saying a lot in the group chat,
Yep.
talking about and on Twitter.
Yep.
Yeah,
A little
can't
bit.
keep your opinions
Nope.
to yourself. But you know what? That's all right because we have a third mic tonight. We have special guest Mario Cuomo has joined us yet again to discuss Clerks. How are you doing tonight, Mario?
I'm good. I had to go very far to see this movie.
Really? How?
I,
What? It wasn't playing locally?
no, well, I'm in Michigan, and I had to, the nearest theater did not have it. So I had to go about 25 miles to a little town called Wayne, Michigan. And
Wow.
the theater was extremely nice, and it was the nicest thing in the whole town. So luckily it was a good experience.
Was there anybody in the audience?
Yeah, just like some like 350-pound dude in a movie shirt.
Was he wearing a hockey shirt and jean
Uh,
shorts?
He was wearing a nice boobies shirt, holding up his
Oh.
man boobies, and
Oh no.
I think he had like long COVID because he was just coughing his lungs out the entire movie. And
You know what's funny too? The movie theater where I watched it also had people in it because you could hear them laughing on the, on the cam rip that I was able to watch.
oh shit,
Yeah, and they
I was really
applauded.
surprised that this movie had a cam rip to it because it is a limited time Fathom event. You're either checking it out. I think at the theater that I went to, and I'm pretty sure this was the case with all the New York theaters, there was one showtime in the day, and it just ran for 7 days. You had to catch the 7 p.m. screening. If you weren't, then you weren't seeing the movie. Other than that, the only other form of release this movie's gotten is through Kevin Smith's road show that he does, where he'll tour the movie around. And yeah, I was really surprised because we are going to just have to have you watch Clerks 1 and 2 and hope for the best with like much like Elvis. I mean, it's kind of just a retread of Elvis, but yeah, I'm glad you got to watch the movie, even if you have your strong opinions about it, which I noticed you put up a screen cap of Jason Mewes' teeth immediately when you were watching the film. God, those are noticeable, though.
I was
dude.
it was just a little weird to me that this pretty much useless and almost stupidly useless character that deals drugs got veneers. I was very confused by that choice of why, I don't know any drug dealer that has such white teeth. So that was very jarring right from the start.
Yeah, it made me miss I missed the gummy look actually, like
Mhm.
the all gums. I missed that. I was like really thrown off by those teeth, dude. Like
If
it.
you if you watch Zach and Miri make a porno, you get to see that where his like face is sunken in. You know, he kind of just his face changes forms. Like every other movie I've noticed. Because if you watch Mallrats, he's kind of like chipmunk cheeked and he's chubby faced, and then you get around that, he looks very cracked out, and now he's just full on Mr. Ed look. He's very
Yeah.
horsey
He
in
looks
this
a lot
movie.
like Kevin Smith's kid. That's weird, isn't it?
Dude, did they have
Yeah.
did they have to throw dude, he did not have to throw her in there at the funeral. I was like,
No,
is he gonna
yeah.
make a movie finally where he doesn't toss his daughter into the mix? And then sure enough, she's just there.
But his wife too. It's just
Yeah,
like, oh, have her
the wife
record
was
something
more
on the phone.
egregious in this film, I think. No, you know what? It might be worse in Clerks 2 because she has like a legitimate role
Right.
in that movie. Yeah, I mean, look, I mentioned this in my very brief letterbox review, which is like if you can put that aside, because that is just a staple for every single one of his movies, whether his friends are famous or not, he will put them in the movie in a shoehorn
Right.
role. And there are plenty in this film, but I don't know if they necessarily. Hans, did you watch? And Mario, same question to you. Did either of you watch Jay and Silent Bob reboot?
No.
Yeah.
That is the worst example of that, in my
Yeah.
opinion, because
Big
it
time.
is just nonstop. Like it's like 5 minute skits with a new celebrity each time,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
rough.
Well,
It
this one
is
felt
very
very
rough.
much like the Zack and Miri montage, right? With the same setting of auditions, and it's
Yeah,
just people saying funny lines or
Dude, I
cameo
was
lines.
slightly annoyed, because I know he had the relationship with the one guy from Impractical Jokers, because I watched that Clerk documentary,
hmm,
The guy
and
with the beard?
yeah, and then he just threw in all of the Impractical
Yeah.
Jokers for this
yes, he
movie,
did.
and I was
Yeah,
like, all right,
I think they're all in New Jersey. That's why. So it was just easy to get them. Maybe they're all hanging
yeah.
out or something at the time.
Oh,
But
dude,
then there's some cameos that just don't really make sense at all.
The
But
girl from
like,
Supergirl,
oh sure, yeah,
Melissa Beno something. Yeah,
Benoist.
yeah.
Freddie Prince Jr. looks like a mummy, dude.
And Sarah Michelle Gellar
That
too.
was
He was in a
Yeah,
scary as
couple.
hell.
there's no reason for any of those people to be in there. I mean, Affleck kind of makes sense since that's his boy from back in the day, and Jennifer Lopez doesn't seem to have a problem with them hanging out together like Jennifer Garner did.
Yeah,
Um, Another thing with this movie is that if you are into anything Kevin Smith related, as far as like podcasts go, um, you get like a beat for beat retread of a lot of his stories, especially regarding the heart attack, like verbatim how he told him having a heart attack immediately coming off of stage in 2018. That story plays out as Randall's heart attack in the beginning of this movie with the same dialogue, same line, everything across the board is the same thing, which is fine, I guess. But you would think, well, my audience overlaps directly here, and I would change
Yeah.
up the dialogue at least.
How is it fine when the only people that are going to watch this are super fans? Because it's so difficult to watch it. So
Sure.
I don't know. It's feels like a cheap, very easy, 5 minutes that
Yeah.
he could have written differently, maybe.
Well, the thing with this movie is that I feel like it is three different movies. It becomes three different movies as it unfolds. And that first half hour, I think, is exactly what my fears were going into the movie, which is this is going to be another Jay and Silent Bob reboot. It's going to be a lot of famous friends, a lot of just quippy dialogue that doesn't land, cringy jokes, just secondhand embarrassment on behalf of many of the actors.
That's what
Uh,
it like. Yeah,
but I
that's what.
do think the film ramps up in a unexpected way and changes form. I think by the time you get to that third act.
yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't get past so we're just watching the same movie again. And maybe because I watched like 50 minutes of Clerks 1 before, I was just like, I'm not, I remember everything that happens here. It's not like the most complicated plot that I've ever seen. So I remember everything that was happening. So then I was just like, I'll just watch the third one. My idea was to watch the three of them, but I after seeing half of one and the whole three, I don't know if I would have. Clerks 2 is the one I've liked the most always, so I
Yeah.
probably just keep that
Well, why don't
as
we
it is.
let's retread a little bit and go and establish where each of us are at as far as Kevin Smith goes as a director. Because Hans, you and I have talked about it before, and I think Mario, we probably talked about Kevin Smith in passing on some earlier shows.
Yeah.
Um,
Before
I
we before we
Yeah,
do that, can I just show you guys how I was watching this movie? Because I
yeah,
did take
please
a couple
do.
of screenshots, and
Yeah.
in the middle of the scene, you will get this very nice ad. So casino ads that will just pop off in the middle of the street, and then there's this ad from this fella that's getting a lot
No,
of
he was
money
in the
out of a
movie.
blender.
This guy is one of the co-stars. He's one of the
I felt
cameos.
like dinner in the movie. You get a little ad in the middle of it, which is
Practical Jokers. Who's the new one?
anyway. Keep going. Sorry, so much.
Well, like I was saying, I kind of want to establish where we're all at with Kevin Smith in the past and then also currently, because I've been a fan of Kevin Smith. I think the first movie of his I saw was probably Dogma, like a replay on Comedy Central when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And then I found out more about his films and everything, I think through like Wizard Magazine back in the early aughts. And I got to know him through comic book shit. And then I caught a bootleg of Clerks 2 that a friend of mine presented me with back in like 2006 or so. We watched it over his house, and it was as good as the copy that you watched of Clerks 3, Hans,
Nice.
minus the casino adverts. And I really enjoyed that film. I caught it later in the way that it was meant to be presented. And I don't know. I've liked almost all of his movies to a point. As soon as we get to like Yoga Hosers, then I think it's like hitting
Yeah.
the brakes real hard. Um, of his, what's going on with your face, Hans? Your nose is disappearing.
Uh,
Oh, welcome
it's
back,
the light.
Hans's nose. You're just really flat faced for a second there.
That's
That's not a
racist.
racial remark.
Yeah.
I,
All
Um,
right. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I forgot my rice hat. Let me go look for it.
dude, you should. You know what? When we start like doing Hong Kong films or something with Jerry again, you know, or we do a follow up to that one movie. What was it, Better Tomorrow or something? You should
Yeah,
just do full
get one.
like
dude,
rice patty.
every time I get a sunburn, I'm like, I wish I could wear one of those straw hats
I
because
wish he wasn't so insensitive to wear one of those
right,
very functional
it would
hats.
Yeah.
really help me like a lot.
Yeah, I should just grow this part of my mustache too. Just this.
Mhm.
Yeah,
No, for
that's
some
it.
reason your blurred background is saying that your nose is not part of your face, and it's just giving like a flat,
Well,
smooth surface there.
there's just a lot behind me, a lot of
A lot of pills, apparently.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's my
What's going on
diabetes.
there?
My diabetes.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, got real. Huh? You didn't like that, huh? Yes, I will die. I'll be your dad soon enough.
Oh no, Hans.
This will help your diabetes right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do
Yeah.
you just have half a chocolate cake off screen that you're
Yeah,
eating?
yeah, dude, I'm super full and I'm not gonna eat that right now.
Uh,
But
I
that stevia chocolate cake is delicious.
uh,
It's the worst fucking.
you know what I just heard recently
Yeah.
is they put stevia in. I think it's Pizza Hut's pizza crust. Were you guys aware of this?
No.
No.
Yeah. So I guess beware of Pizza Hut unless you like really sweet, artificial sweet crust.
No, the
Um,
sweetest Papa John's. That's the sweetest sauce. It's
yeah,
disgusting.
I never eat Papa John's. I always go Domino's if I'm slumming it. But
Yeah.
Kevin Smith, you know, he probably
Oh
ate a
yeah.
lot of Domino's. That was a 300-pound man. That probably
Oh
led to a heart
yeah,
attack.
dude.
You know, I watched a Pete Holmes, you know, interview with him recently because I think I watched one review of Clerks 3 and now I get recommended nothing but Kevin Smith videos on YouTube. And it was the most awkward, passive aggressive podcast interview I've ever seen. Because Kevin is telling a story, I think, about how his mom died on the operating table and came back to life. And Pete checks his phone and Kevin calls him out on it and takes offense to it. He's like, "Oh, so you're fucking bored by my like?" I saw an aggressive Kevin Smith for the first time
That's
Oh,
weird.
ever. Yeah, not like soft, cucky pushover Kevin Smith, which I think has always been fake all along. Because if you
Really?
watch any behind the scenes videos to like Clerks 2 or any of these like shoots or whatever, he's not a pushover guy, but he poses as one in public, which makes it all the stranger.
I can see that.
So is that why Silent Bob is like a dictator director in this one? Is that him being like, I'm actually a badass?
Badass
It looks
Bob.
like it's melting. Weirdly. I was a huge fan. I even have the DVDs of the what was it, Night with
One night,
Kevin
I
Smith.
watched those after Clerks 3. They're all on like Tubi, and they're all 4 hours long. There's
Yeah.
about 5 of them. The first two are really good,
Yeah.
and it coincided well because John Peters was on Joe Rogan,
Joe Rogan.
this past week, and he has a great John Peters story about him trying to shoehorn a metal spider into the Superman Lives script.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
good story.
yeah. Well, I'm curious about one thing here as you go on, Hans.
Hmm.
And then Mario, you can answer this as well. Are you more a fan of Kevin Smith, the director, or Kevin Smith, the personality? Because he's established himself just as well as like a soft comedian,
Yeah.
slash definitely one of the uh, like earliest podcasters to take
Yeah.
off and have their own you know apparatus that was successful with
Uh-huh.
Smodcast. And I feel like that's its own thing, and it's kind of trickled into his movie making as of maybe Tusk or so, and blended it. But I mean, which would you say that you're more a fan of?
I mean, I respect his hustle and everything. Like, you know, guy's got to make a lot of money somehow, and that's cool that he's developed this hardcore fan base. But yeah, as far as that whole thing, like bleeding into his movies, like I was kind of happy at the end of this movie because I was like, maybe he can like actually like let some stuff go now and like try something like fresh, because like there was a lot of he does like a ton of nodding, like, you know,
Oh yeah.
throughout the movie. And it's like, if he could just stop fucking doing that and like maybe like take a step back from like, I'm this superhero podcast weed celebrity, then that could be beneficial for him, because I'm not as much of a fan of like, I went to fucking see that Clerk documentary in person where like he talked,
Hmm.
and he was just like late as fuck and like telling these stories that had nothing to do with anything, and everybody's just eating it up like shit on a plate. And it was like really I wasn't even crazy about the documentary really. And I could do with a little bit less of that, I think. I guess I'm more of the movie fan.
That
I think
documentary is full of celebrities being like, "Yeah, I only agreed to do this documentary in his movie because he almost died. He's probably gonna die
Yeah.
again, so might as well
Yeah.
show up before that happens." Go ahead, Hans.
I think most people were thinking exactly the same thing you just said, Mario, when Clerks 2 came out.
Yeah.
So he was like, okay, well, he's made his movies about his slackers or whatever. And this is the second one. I don't remember if he said that he wasn't going to do a third one or if that was even a thing. But after that, I don't know. I feel like that's when he tried to go, well, maybe not with Second Miri, but then you have Cop Out, you have Red State, you have Tusk. So all of those are not the type of movie that he was making before that, and
Right.
none of them worked as well as the other ones did. So maybe that's why he's, threading back into the thing that worked 20 years ago with the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and now this. I think because I was like an early Kevin Smith fan. I think the first movie I ever watched was Mallrats, that I bought it for like, those 2 or 3 for $5 DVDs at like a Blockbuster or something.
Yeah.
And his podcast was the first podcast I ever listened to. So I was into the indie, this fat indie director who had opinions and would talk a lot about movie making and things like that. And now that I look at this list and after rewatching half of Clerks 1, I think I like these movies because I liked him. So I like them more because of that, or convince myself that I like them more because of that. Because Mallrats it's not very good. Like Mallrats, I think I convinced myself that I liked it, but thinking back, it's like it's very, I don't know, it's very all over the place. It's very like unfocused. And I think that was maybe his style at the beginning of his career. But now when he tries to do that with Clerks 3, it just felt not, I don't know if I should say dishonest, but it felt like, hey, remember when I used to do this type of thing? Hey, are you gonna like me again? That's how this whole movie felt to me, because there was a lot of callbacks. It was a lot of, maybe not what he did with Clerks 1, because one thing that I still like is that you can really see the indie of the early 90s filmmaking thing, with the music, with the way it was shot, the introduction to the characters with titles, and how everyone had like a little tiny introduction of who the character was, which was a very good setup, because within 2 or 3 minutes you knew exactly who they were. They were not complicated characters. They were not very deep characters, so you could pretty much show who they were within a couple of minutes. But yeah, looking back at his lists of movies, I think I convinced myself that I liked them more than I actually did, because I enjoyed who Kevin Smith was then. And now that has been destroyed completely, where I find him kind of unbearable, I don't have that same, I guess, uh, good, what we call it, like I don't give him a pass as much as before,
Right.
and instead it's like, oh Jesus, are you really, oh, all right, okay, Kevin, oh, we get it. Oh, for a kite that has, what's the joke, higher than a kite on fentanyl, oh fucking Jesus, Kevin, you know what I mean? So
Yeah. All right. Well, hold on. There's something else in play here, which is that, are you sure it's just not that comedy has changed, and so the comedic aspects aren't as charming to you now as they
maybe.
were in 2000 or whenever you
Right.
watched
He's
Mallrats?
a '90s man, so it's
Yeah, and also podcasts have kind of ruined this type of movie, I feel like, because you have the rants from the first Clerks and the second Clerks where they go off on Lord of the Rings or go off on Star Wars or go off on nerdy movies that nobody cared about, let's say, back in the day, from someone that's not a movie reviewer or an educated person, which is who you would listen to back in the day. And now we have something like this show where you where you have
Yeah.
people just talking shit about that type of movie. So seeing Randall go off for 3 minutes about how, I don't know, um, is hairy down there or whatever. It's not as charming as it was because it's very available now.
Right.
And back in those days, it was like if you were to read a review, it would usually be like either a writer that would write a very nice review or in a magazine, not just a convenience store guy that had opinions about Star Wars. So that has definitely been influenced by how much podcasts have not ruined that, because if you're listening to this, then that's great. But but you know what I mean? Like it's not as charming as it was back in the
Sure.
day.
Do you think that encompasses his style though? Because I feel like he's got the same thing that Tarantino has, which is like the long running back and forth between characters, but his is always very pop culture centric.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that Clerks 3, for the most part, was void of that. Especially compared to Clerks 2 in the first one and other movies he's done. He definitely has like modern references that don't feel old manish, like an old man making jokes about like modern era stuff, like all the cryptocurrency
Um,
jokes that take place in
Mhm.
that first act. That's pretty painful.
Yeah.
Um, but on the whole, aside from like one Star Wars reference, it's pretty slim pickings on this movie.
Hmm. I'm trying to think. I didn't really write down many. I wrote down a lot of jokes that I thought were very painful. The whole
Yeah,
Rosario Dawson thing was just like, oh boy, she's having
the
sex with
graveyard scene. Yeah,
Mike Malcolm, Miss Malcolm XXX. Do you get it? Because he's got a big penis. It's just like, oh Jesus, all right. And you're right. Maybe it's because I don't really find that charming anymore because the exposure and because I find him to be kind of insufferable now. But I you said that you laughed a couple of times. So there
I
was a
did
couple of
laugh a
jokes that
couple of
landed.
times. Yeah.
Do you remember when? Do you remember the
Uh,
joke?
yes, I
Elias,
do.
Elias like saved it a bit for me.
His makeup I enjoyed for the most
Yeah,
part, how they
the
changed that out.
constant chain was getting me.
Uh, I actually found myself, and I usually don't find him funny at all. I found myself laughing at Jason Mewes in this movie a few times. Specifically, two instances that come to mind because I started watching Clerks 3 again. I watched your copy, Hans,
Nice.
as like a refresher because I watched this movie about a week ago. And it was the scene where he's yelling at Dante to keep it down because it's nighttime.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I thought that was funny. That got an unexpected laugh out of me. And then when he interrupts the shoot to ask if something was like some piece of dialogue was legit, because it reminded me of like shooting comfort systems at Mike's house. And
Mm.
his uncle would be watching. His uncle was like a crackhead guy, and he'd be watching Mike act, and I'm like filming him, and he would do that. He would go, "Wait a minute, is that like for real?" Like he would inject himself and take whatever was happening seriously. I was like,
Was
just
it
I
a suck it
cracked
like
up
a
over
pee
that.
pee short?
Yeah, it was around that time. It was around that sketch. Yes. So yeah, I found myself laughing a couple of times, more than I expect. Like, listen, I walked into the theater expecting to just be cringing nonstop and hate the movie, and I didn't hate the movie at all. I did cringe a lot,
Mhm.
but still, on the whole, probably less. And I do think a lot of the problems that you're talking about, Hans, are concentrated mainly to like the first 30 minutes or 40 minutes of the film, and then it gradually becomes less of a comedic film as it goes on.
Yeah, and it just became Dante being a whiny little aw shucks guy. He was so annoying to me in this movie. That's something that I noticed in the first one that never bothered me before until this rewatch where everything's oh woe is me. Oh, I'm Dante. I'm not
Because
even
they're
supposed
both
to be.
old.
It's just
They're 50 years old and single, and they run a convenience store, and that's what their life became.
yeah.
So that's what it should be.
And these actors have like regular lives in between, like these like 15 years in between each
Hmm.
movie, right?
Yeah, if
Like
you check out their Wikipedia, you'd be like, wow, what are they up to? Oh, the last thing was Clerks 2. That's the
They're
case with
like
Elias, at least, too.
they're like going to Comic Cons and like signing fucking photos for 40 bucks a pop.
I know that Jeff Anderson tried to do maybe directing
Oh
or a
yeah.
couple of bit parts for a second, but then was just like, "Fuck it, I don't care anymore. I'm out."
I
And
have that on DVD too. I was such a fan of that universe that I got. I think it's called Now You Know or something like that. It's not good. It's a romantic comedy with
with Jeremy Sisto,
yeah, it's not good. But I was like, hey, it's it's Randall. I'll get it. I like Randall, and probably saw it once.
hmm
Did
And
you guys
yeah.
watch Clerks, the cartoon series?
I
yeah,
have a DVD of that somewhere. Jerry was going on about that on our Star Wars show, I think, talking about how that was good. And I haven't watched it in about like 20 years, but I do remember enjoying the program.
Yeah,
So,
I had an older cousin that was like just like into movies and video games and shit like that, and he was like kind of like an older brother figure to me. So when I would like be over at my cousin's house and I'd go down into the basement in his room when he wasn't like, fucking yelling at us or like punching us, he was like showing us pretty cool shit.
mhm.
And this was one of like Clerks one was like the first thing that I ever saw, and he just had it on, and then it was like the scene where they were like talking about like snowballing, and
Mm.
he was like, go upstairs, come back downstairs in 5 minutes, and I
I
was like,
gotta
what? I was
I
like,
gotta jerk
why?
off.
Yeah, not that I wouldn't have even known. Like, I didn't even like at the time. I don't think I knew what like jacking off was. I was like, I wouldn't have understood what was going on. But he was like, no, you can't be here for this. But then came back down and finished the movie, and he introduced me to like a lot of shit. My older cousin, but yeah, him showing me Clerks was like one of the first things, and then like taking me to like Wizard World Comic Con. Not too long after that, it was like fucking second grade or something. So I saw these, and then like Mallrats is like one of my favorite movies for like a long time. But like I'm just a fucking Jason Lee super fan
Mm.
with
Mhm.
his skate videos, and
Oh, yeah.
uh, he was in some fucking pretty good stuff for a long time. So
How
yeah,
come he wasn't back? How come he didn't get a little
He
cameo?
did the last one. He was probably not impressed. He said, "All right, I did. I served my time. I'm out."
yeah,
Well, he
I,
got what's his name? Ethan Suplee to do a
a
cameo
cameo.
there with something about the boat, he said.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
from yeah, get it.
remember?
You know
Remember that?
who else caught me by surprise? Who nobody has mentioned? Anthony Michael Hall.
Oh yeah.
oh
Evil
yeah. What the
Dies
hell?
Tonight shows up in this movie.
That was
Uh,
random.
yeah, I don't know why or how that came about, but cool.
Danny Trejo speaking bad Spanish too. I was like, oh, that's not what we
Oh,
sound
he's
like.
easy to get.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's not. Yeah.
So do you feel like there's all right? You clearly were not in on this movie, but you did cite Clerks 2 as your favorite of his works.
Yeah.
Um, I think this movie is far better than Clerks 2. And maybe look, I for a period of time I would say that Clerks 2 was probably my favorite of his films too until I revisited it last
Rewatched.
year and I was like, "Wow, this didn't hold up.
Yeah.
This is pretty uncomfortable to sit through some of these scenes." Um, and now I would say I think his best movie is probably Chasing Amy. I think Chasing Amy is the one that probably has held up the strongest.
You seen it recently?
Yeah, I caught
Okay.
that
Been a
last
while.
year again after having not watched it in about 10 years.
I think we were talking about doing a retrospective on him, and
Well, we had Robbie on. We were going to do Clerks, the first movie, and then I think we wound up talking about a bunch of other shit. And so it's just kind of like not we rethemed the show midway
right.
through, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah,
So
Chasing is great.
Yeah,
mm,
one of the things that really bothered me here too is that how every character was just very quippy and ranty, and that Amy Sedaris doctor character, and then the Justin Long character being like, "Oh, you have little penis, 'cause, hey, a working pediatry,
I thought that was
little
funny
tiny
too.
penis." You
I thought
laughed
that
at
was,
that?
yeah, I laughed at that line.
I maybe I was just in a bad mood. I don't know, but I was
Maybe you
just
were
like,
watching a cam copy with slotslights.com adverts
that's
all over it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
there's a you know how the ending is supposed to be very like touching, right? It's like, well, now it's by himself and there's still shenanigans happening in the store, and his daughter, which is not his daughter in the movie, I don't think, right? She's putting away the milk jugs, right, at the end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's just some girl.
Yeah.
she's at
This
the
is
funeral
this is
too.
what the ending, what the touching ending looked like for me. And then you have this, and I was like, oh, that's very touching.
Wow. That's the new Dante and Randall. They passed the torch. You didn't get that?
Yeah, two cricket players that yeah, that's like passing the fucking torch to a couple of Indian men. It's great.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think maybe you would have been less harsh on it if you watched like a real version of the movie. Maybe. I don't know. Um, Mario, what was your take on this film? Because it's been a lot of Hans ranting about the problems
Yeah.
of it. But I mean, what is your feeling on this movie, both by itself in Kevin Smith's filmography? Because I don't think you can really talk about this movie fairly as just a movie in general, right?
Right.
Because it's so
Right.
deeply interconnected to the other two films and just his body of work, and then also
Mhm.
compared to the previous two films.
Well, I couldn't help but, going into it, I thought I was gonna get another Jay and Silent Bob reboot for sure. So I was like, going into it, I was like, if it's anything better than that, I'm kind of I'll be okay with this movie. And it was way better than that. So that already, put me in a better spot. But I guess I enjoyed just seeing some much needed, not even needed, but just closure in general. Just being like, I was really glad that they killed him. I thought that was a good move, and I just really hope that he could just, I don't know, maybe he needs like a really intense like weed panic attack or something, or he's like, fuck, I thought I had a heart attack again. Maybe I won't be getting so high. He needs something, dude. But I think maybe this hopefully this one kind of really helps him shut many doors, and he could stop talking about, like, I know it's probably some traumatic shit that he went through with the heart attack, so like he probably want it was nice for him to be able to go through all that and do all that, talk about all that stuff. But I mean, I enjoyed it. I wasn't like bummed when I left the movie or anything like that. And I was pretty impressed with Brian O'Halloran, that like he was like able to like deliver such like serious lines. And because I'm like, this guy's not like acting in between these movies, right?
Right.
And I was like, maybe if I was shit faced, this could have made me cry.
There were
I
people
was like,
crying in my theater. There were
really?
definitely, yes, there were grown adults that were crying in my theater.
Damn. I mean,
So
yeah, the guy next to me with the movies shirt probably had tears all over his face,
He
but
was leaking
he was
his
leaking out.
breasts.
His udders were spurting. But no, I didn't shed a tear. But I was like, man, if I was still getting hammered at the theater, I think this probably could have got me.
Well,
So
Brian O'Halloran does a very good performance in a film called Vulgar from
oh
2000,
yeah,
where he
because he
plays
gets
a
raped
clown.
repeatedly by a family of guys when he's dressed up
what
as a
the
clown.
fuck?
You
Yeah,
haven't seen Vulgar?
No.
That's
yeah,
another like early aughts blockbuster, View Askew, Kevin Smith produced film, where he's like a down on his luck clown, and he's going to perform at some party, but it doesn't turn out to be a party. It's just like an older man in his apartment with his two sons, and they just rape him repeatedly.
Is
yeah.
he the guy, the View Askew logo? That's the clown.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Could be.
That's him. Oh
Uh,
God, I've never heard about this though.
I watched it for the first time only like a year or two ago. It was a pretty beat up copy of the film because they haven't transferred it. I don't think it's on streaming anywhere. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but yeah. To go off of your, oh, jeez, yeah.
That's it.
That guy's in Clerks 3 as well, right? Isn't it?
This guy?
Yeah, isn't he like one of the comic book men or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, yeah. He's got a big beard. What's his name? Brian
Oh yeah, yeah,
Johnson.
yeah. One of the
Brian Johnson, I think.
man.
So this movie came
Yeah, this
out in what, 2000?
2000. Yeah.
2000. That guy does a podcast with E-Rock from Opie and Anthony now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. It's on Compound Media, I think. So
Is it about comics and
it's
things
about like
like that?
Funko Pops or something. I
Yeah.
don't know, whatever.
Do you think
Uh,
he's just too deep? Like he's too deep with the self brand of like the just the fucking weed podcast that like it's too late.
mhm.
Is It's done.
Maybe. I will say to what you just said before, I was actually really impressed. Even though, look, their acting in this movie is kind of spotty, especially in the first and second act. But everyone's acting is not the best for
Yeah.
any of these films in general. But I was really impressed with Jeff Anderson and with Brian O'Halloran's acting in that third act. I think they sold it. And what this movie, I think, made clear to me is that Kevin Smith going forward should try to veer away from comedy. I think maybe like a little bit here and there is probably fine, but I think he nails the drama in this movie 50 times harder than any of the comedic bits in Clerks 3.
And he's a man that loves to cry.
Yes, it's perfect for him.
So just keep fucking crying, keep fucking staying by, like crying behind the camera, dude. Like fuck it.
I think his death really works in the whole back and forth that they have before he has a heart attack is great and probably some of the best directing he's done in like the past 15 years.
Mm.
But everything else, I mean, it's kind of like you're watching, I don't want to say suffering because I enjoyed the movie, but you're definitely dealing with a very wobbly, mixed up 2/3 of the film just to get to like a really good conclusion with those two guys.
And like he's got, with like all the time he spends on podcasts, like he's got all the time in the world for dick and fart jokes and like old like boomer humor that really stuck in the 90s that maybe he's just isn't landing the same. And he can get all that out just ripping joints and talking shit on his like 14 podcasts. And yeah, I guess maybe yeah, you're right, with the more serious route that could be cool.
What is he? What's upcoming?
Tusk
Uh,
2.
oh, right.
Your reaction to that is very
Real?
very subdued.
There's
Very, yeah.
Twilight of the Mallrats. Is that still happening?
So he's gone through a cycle of like first it started with Clerks 3 back in 2012. He was like, I'm going to do Clerks 3. And the original idea for this, and I got intel from one of these he did a reading of the script that Jeff Anderson shut down and was like, I'm not doing that movie. This idea fucking sucks. It
The
was
third one?
essentially a lot of Jay and Silent Bob reboot. They weren't in the quick stop. It burnt down again. And it's just them. I forget what the actual plot is, but it ends with a movie theater shooting Aurora style where Dante, who's already cancer ridden, gets shot up. And so Jeff Anderson's Randall is left to take care of Dante's daughter, who is like the black girl from Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yeah, I heard about that idea. So
It's
that
gonna be
didn't happen.
played by his daughter. Just
No, that was
No.
gonna be Clerks 3, right?
That was good. That was the original Clerks 3 up until I want to say like 2017 or so, where Jeff Anderson was like, "No, we're not going to do that." But he got side. I mean, this is the thing with Kevin Smith too. He'll say, "This is what's up next," and then he'll get distracted by some other idea. So when Clerks 3 got tabled, it went over to Twilight of the Mallrats, which was going to be his Mallrats sequel, and he went around to like all the actors. He met them in person and said, "Will you do this movie?" And they all said, "Yeah." And he posted like pictures each time someone agreed on Instagram. Even Ben Affleck was like, "Yeah, maybe I'll do." It was like right around the time he won Best Picture for Argo, you know, and that didn't happen because the rights, I guess, were muddled in between a couple of different companies. And then he wanted to do it as like a mini series. Again, didn't happen. And also in that time, he was going to do a hockey movie called Hit Somebody, which didn't happen either. That
Yeah,
also was going to
hockey
get turned into a
movie
series.
got a
I
little played out in the early 2000s.
hmm and
No Moose Jaws. We're never gonna get Moose Jaws.
I maybe so. I mean, he's going to Tusk too, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen.
What is
Yeah, that's-
what is the Degrassi Canadian fetish that he has? He's a New Jersey man. I don't understand the fucking Canadian shit every movie.
Hans, you lived in Canada. What is it?
I
What's
did.
the appeal?
I don't know. I don't like
You
it.
just
You're
like
from New Jersey,
I
Hans.
don't live there anymore.
I
I don't
don't
know.
I really don't understand it.
I
I don't know.
guess
I guess they were nice to him because he would
Does he
always
have like
sell
a
out.
massive? Does he? Is it like fan service? Is it
Yeah,
like a massive Canadian audience?
I think he recorded one of those DVDs in a big theater in Toronto, so he probably has like a big audience there.
I've never understood that, but
Yeah. Oh God, I'm going through his Instagram see if I can find any of those pictures that you're saying. But
is it just
this
photos
old
of his
man
face covered
posts
in
a
tears?
lot. Yeah, a lot of just his face doing that, doing this face,
Yeah.
and and eh, yeah, it's
it's
probably that though. It's probably just fan service, like you said.
Hmm.
it seems like in the '90s you could make like one like masterpiece and just work for like 35 years after that. And like I don't think that's not like a way that you could pull off a career anymore.
Well, he was what in that same wave that Tarantino came in, right? It was like the
Yeah.
Yeah,
new indie
there was an
darlings.
article that says the next Scorsese, and it's I mean they did it with a couple of different directors, which
M
people don't
Night.
mention when it gets passed around because then that takes the humor away from it. But it says
I
the next Scorsese, Kevin Smith.
I do have a question
Oh,
for you
Yeah,
oh.
about speaking of Scorsese, who was praising the movie Pearl,
I
which
saw that.
everybody in my Twitter feed was sucking it off except for you, who I think gave it 1.5 stars.
I did, yeah. And people, I mean, look, I follow a couple of people on Letterboxd anyway who agree with that, who aren't fans of what Ty West is up to. I love Ty West. I think, he was one of my favorite directors, bar none, of the last decade. I quite
Yeah,
enjoyed House of the Devil, The Innkeepers, The Sacrament.
that was a
And
great
then,
movie.
you know, X just didn't do it for me. It seemed like a big step back. And I went back and watched In a Valley of Violence, his movie with James Ransone and Ethan Hawke and John Travolta, and that's a very good western. That's a great movie. X just it sucked. It was just all right. He wanted
I
to
haven't seen
do
any of his A24 things.
You're probably better for it. I mean, it just felt like he wanted to do Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but then got Mia Goth and maybe it was like into her or something because Shia LaBeouf was fucking like three different girls at the same time and they developed
Right,
some ideas and he's looking for more of a reason to work with her. And
right.
that's how Pearl came along. It was her idea.
Yeah,
That
everybody's just going nuts like
Right.
great time to be a horror fan, and I'm just like I haven't seen any of this shit yet, but I'm like,
fuck no. Tusk 2 is going to blow that out of the
She,
water.
she was the worst character of that too. The one that annoyed me the most on X. Uh,
is it because she had
remember?
no eyebrows?
Well, that was kind of jarring, but also I thought she was very one note, very like just boring performance. And
uh,
I was also a huge fan of his, and I did see some people being very positive about it. But I remember when we recorded our episode on X, and I think you Lores, said that they were going to do that, and we were all like, "Is that?
They're
Shouldn't he
doing
be
three of them.
focusing on some three?"
Yeah, Maxine comes out probably next year. I don't think they've actually shot that one yet, but they dropped the trailer to it right after the credits of Pearl.
I'm getting kind of burnt out on these like everything exists in my own little film world of trilogies that aren't really sequels but prequels
Mhm.
Yeah,
and like A24 is no longer like this like hipster thing. It's like it's just like is you know it's like it's not like that.
it became a parody of what it was supposed to be. Now
Yeah,
it's
like they're
just
doing like animated shit and I don't know.
Well, everybody's going to the theater to see Marcel the Shell, right? Which is now in the Letterbox 250 greatest films of all time.
wow.
So,
Criterion. No, I don't
yeah. Even Criterion is starting to waver. I mean, look,
Well,
I
you called it like 5 years ago.
5 years ago, everyone will catch up to me. That's all right. That's fine. People caught on to Vincent Gallo being cool in time. Yeah, Wally's in the Criterion Collection now, which I looked at. I like Wally, but Disney in a Criterion Collection just feels kind of funny to me.
yeah.
I don't like where that goes because then all of a sudden you're probably gonna have like The
Every
Lion King
yeah.
2, Simba's Pride in there before you know it.
Yeah. Well,
Eternals.
You
Uh,
know who's a Criterion director is Kevin Smith. You got Chasing Amy in there. They were making a lot of questionable. People say questionable. I agree with all these decisions in the late '90s for what movies were going to go in the Criterion Collection. Chasing Amy,
was
mhm,
it Tusk?
Armageddon, The
mhm.
Rock.
I guess when you have to appeal to a larger audience, because I guess you're not making enough money with your indie classics that you put out. But if that's what you're known for, it makes no sense to me that they're branching out to just gigantic movies now.
Well,
That
here's what's happening, right? Is the the distribution portion of many of these companies, like Warner and Disney, aren't making money off physical media so much as streaming. So they
Mhm.
don't really care about that, and they want to outsource that. So all these big titles are going to become more available to boutique distributors like Criterion and Arrow, and you're going to see like very deluxe versions selling for $30 and $40 a piece because that's where the money can be made from these smaller companies that are putting out um, more, more. I don't know, just better versions of these films.
Well, they're not getting my money until they start making VHS again.
They'll do that. I think they'll do that. It
That's
seems
all
like
I'm
that's
fucking
catching
buying.
on.
I don't even look at the DVDs anymore. I got such a VHS boner. I'm just fucking stacking these things up against my wall,
Hmm.
10 feet high.
Well, the good thing about VHSs is that I don't know how the rights work for those, but there's a lot of even people on Instagram that just make modern movies and they put it into VHSs, so you can just do that and
Yeah,
watch
you
modern
probably won't
movies
get
too.
bothered. You're not going to get a cease and desist from a company if you're putting out VHS copies of it. I have a VHS of Mad Max Fury Road and the 2017 one over here, and I made a couple for Good Time and what else is over there? Like 2001. I don't know, but I was gonna say something before. Oh yeah, yeah. I noticed on Instagram you've been posting like your VHS hauls,
Yeah.
and you got like a good batch on the last go around.
Yeah. I just got another good one out here in Michigan. I just
Where
got,
are you collecting them?
like, where am I buying them?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, if I find, if I'm like looking for something, I'll just eBay it. But, there's this place, there's like a chain store around where I live called Disc Replay, and they usually have a good assortment. And so that's where I get shit in Illinois. And then there's a spot in LA called Cinephile that usually has a, pretty good assortment, and that like cycles pretty quickly. So like if I go in there like once a month, there's a pretty good you know section to choose from. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I just hit a fucking garage sale and got like 30 VHS for like $3.
Nice.
Actually, my brother picked it up for me, and she was like, um, "Okay, $2." And she was like, "These were my husband's. He just passed away."
No.
And my brother was like, "All right, I'll give you three." He threw her an extra dollar because her husband died.
Condolences.
Yeah, I was like, "Frank, you tipped her $1 because it was her dead husband." He was like, "Yeah, I felt bad."
Hans, what's the last VHS tape you remember buying?
Never. I've never bought
You've
a
never
VHS
owned a
tape.
VHS tape?
No, we were really poor, so we never had a VHS when I was growing up. And also it was very difficult to get those things here. I think I knew one friend that had like a copy of Titanic or something, which was like three VHSs, I think, or something like
There's
that.
two.
But okay, two. But
Would you
I've
borrow one of them?
no, I've never. I didn't have a VHS,
Hmm.
so
You didn't have a
no.
VCR.
I mean VCR. Yeah, yeah. I didn't have one of those growing up. And
Wow.
then when DVDs came out and they started making them more portable, you can get one for like $50. Then that's when they started collecting. But before that, VHS was like bougie for me. Same with like having a PlayStation or when that came out, it was
Entertainment was too bougie
yeah,
for you.
yeah. Entertainment was like watch soccer and like very
Go
early
throw a
dial-up
rock
internet.
over the fence.
Yeah.
Just go
Yeah,
for a
so
walk.
I did. I'm old enough to have played marbles outside of my house, so
Jesus fucking Christ.
yeah, yeah.
ooh, I had some Pokemon marbles. At least they had characters on them.
No, no, it was just glass balls with little
Tiny
flowery
checkers,
things in the middle. Yeah,
tiny
and
checkers without the board, huh?
yeah, it's just like, hey, this one's matte. Isn't that cool?
Hans, did you ever play kick the can as a kid?
No, no. It's like I'm not old enough to. I don't know if you've ever seen the back in the day they would play with like a it would be like a, how can I explain this? Like the
Can.
no, it's like a circle, right? But it's only a wire, and then you would push it with a stick and go
A
down a
hula
hill.
hoop.
No, no,
So the,
no, but no, you would push it with a stick and you would run, and the thing would
You
yes,
would chase after
go
it
down a hill.
like
Yeah.
a dog on
yeah,
a
but
racetrack.
Yeah, I never did that. I'm not old enough. But in my third world country grow ups, yeah, we did a lot of marbles. We did bootleg Legos. That was big.
Was bootleg what? Like the wooden Legos?
No, just like a bucket of like 5,000 pieces, but they were not Lego brand. They were just
Or just wood
the
chips from the
Legos.
playground?
No, they were plastic.
Oh.
Yeah, we didn't have wood chips. What is bougie fucking, we're in a third world country? You have
Wood is
dirt.
bougie now?
Yeah, we have dirt and rain.
no,
Oh.
no Lincoln Logs out there.
No, don't even know what that is. No.
All right, let's get back on Kevin Smith. I want to know what you guys think of like the second phase of his career because we didn't really talk about that. We did get into the whole View Askew universe, but he does have. It wasn't intended as a trilogy of horror films, but it is kind of that now. He's got Red State, Tusk, and then Yoga Hosers, and those are like the three. I'm doing genre pictures now. Um,
The last time I was truly like, fuck yeah, excited, I was probably high as fuck in my room watching Red State. I was probably 19 years old, maybe 18 years old. I was stoned out of my brain and I watched Red State on my little TV in my room and I was like, he's fucking moving on to a whole new territory. I was like, I'm so excited. Like he's gonna be this badass fucking horror action director. And that was probably the last time I was like really excited.
There was a lot of hype around Red State because it was such a different turn for Kevin Smith, especially after Cop Out left a sour taste in everybody's mouths, and he like very pettily ranted about Bruce Willis on the Mark Maron podcast and made that a whole controversy. That was also the time he got kicked off the plane for being too fat. He didn't want to buy the extra seat and he couldn't
Was
fit
it
it
too
into a
fat to
seat.
fly? I
Too
think he
fat to
called it.
fly. That's
Yeah.
right. So catchy. Master of marketing, Kevin Smith.
It
Did
really
he
is.
end up suing,
Somehow.
or he just got a bunch of publicity from it, right?
I don't think he sued. I don't think he needed to sue. They probably, I don't know. Something might have happened with that. I have no idea. He's not that fat anymore, so he doesn't have to worry about it. But yeah, Red State was like the big thing where it was also, this is not aged very well. He called his LLC the Harvey Boys after Harvey
Oh,
Weinstein. So that's on the back of the Red State Blu-ray disc. And then he goes on to tell a story
okay.
about how he named it after Harvey Weinstein. Harvey was his boy. In the screening to Red State, Harvey like leaves after 5 minutes or something, and then yells at him when he like walks out to try and like pull him back or whatever. And then he tours the movie. That's the start of the whole roadshow era of his filmmaking career, and people seemed positive on it at the time it came out.
Yeah.
What
Have
about
you
now?
revisited?
The fandom is really fucking insane. It's baffling to me. I mean, there was even like movies, pop-up hamburger restaurants in Chicago and fucking all over the US and it's that's a feat in itself. Probably more impressive than a lot of his filmmaking is that he's just found this fucking cash cow just slanging like signed DVDs and you know,
And
I mean,
taking
fuck, you make
pictures.
a movie, you might as well just fucking really run them.
Well, yeah, I guess he makes them cheap and then just shows them to people that he knows will go see them anyway. I don't
Well,
know. He's
I think
probably
that's
made
a
enough money.
problem at the
Like,
same time, and also this ties into the Pete Holmes podcast. He noted, he kind of mentioned this in passing. He was like, "Do you ever just like?" Because he was trying to like be real with Pete Holmes, but Pete Holmes is
Pete,
incapable of being
that's
real. He's just
that's
like
the
an
guy.
annoying, silly.
Isn't isn't the podcast called "You Made It Weird"? I think, or
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah. So
he kept
that's
trying to like actually connect with him, but Pete Holmes was not like present for the interview. And he was like, "Do you ever just like sit and observe your numbers or study your numbers and wonder why your fandom is shrinking?" And I think that makes sense when you think about like Jay and Silent Bob reboot and how that had a limited like screening or whatever. But I think that actually got ushered out and had like a legitimate theatrical release because Saban bought it. And then Clerks 3 is what this is, where you have to drive 2 hours to go see it, or watch it with some black actor model putting fake money into a blender and interrupting the film every 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool though. It was like I was like not expecting the theater to be so nice because once I rolled into that town, I was like, oh shit. I was like, where the fuck am I? And then it was like this big ass theater that was like it looked like the tallest building in the whole fucking town, and like still had the lights, like every like, and I was like, oh thank God, it's like a legitimate fucking the whole town's economy must be based on movie tickets.
Mm.
But
But
it was a nice place.
it's such a weird thing if you put them side to side though, because so he does, or he is again, I guess, back to making movies for his fans, but at the same time he has this persona of being like corporate, everything corporate I love. So I feel like those two things kind of contradict each other, because what he makes is not for everyone, but everything he likes and everything he enjoys and tries to get into or weasel his way into directing an episode of The Flash, or what was the other show that the Goldbergs. He directed 3 episodes
Did
of
he
that.
direct the Goldbergs? Oh
Apparently,
wow,
3 episodes. No,
Supergirl he
4 episodes.
directed.
Yeah,
I think he does. All right, so there is that dichotomy that I think Kevin Smith shares with only one other artist who operates in the same way as him, and that artist is Lena Dunham, in which somehow the art will seem more aware of those problems than the person,
yeah.
right? So when you take a look at Lena Dunham, anytime she opens her mouth, you just want to tell her to shut the fuck up. Like, you sound stupid. You're ruining everything. Shut up. Go away. But then you watch like one of her movies, and she like addresses certain criticisms, and it's like, so are you aware of a lot of the, even though you're saying like the exact opposite of what you're conveying in the film, are you somehow aware of whatever the deeper truth there is? And I feel like with Clerks 3, there's the opportunity to be like, we're going to set up we're going to revisit the View Askew universe, and we're going to expand this, and we're going to milk this, and we're going to do this and that. And then he kills Dante, and you can't do that. So it's like he's doing the opposite of what he loves in the media he's consuming.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's almost like he's trying to differentiate himself from that. Like, no, I'm an artist, even though he doesn't maybe do that in the most obvious
Right.
obvious way, I'll say. It's kind of him being like, no, it's time to put a cap on this, and like he's trying to build some integrity, maybe. Um, what you disagree?
I think you might be giving him too much credit.
Well, then why kill Dante?
Well,
Because
he always wanted to kill Dante, right?
That's all right. That's true too. Yeah.
Originally. He's been waiting.
well, wasn't that him too? Him on the
Himself.
script on the original.
No,
Clerks?
he
Like,
was gonna be Randall.
Right.
wow.
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
No, I think Jeff Anderson was born to play that character, and that's the only thing that I've seen him in where it seems natural coming out of the dialogue coming out of his mouth. But I mean, what else can you do with this, I guess, trilogy? Where could he
Do a
have
fourth.
gone? They just end the same way as second did, because that's how this ends. There's just one less guy, right? The last kind of 10 minutes are very similar in the way that both movies
He
end.
can't have his daughter take over the fucking cash register
Yeah,
because
because
he already
no
burned
one-
that fucking bridge with yoga hosers.
Yeah.
It must have
Exactly.
been.
Where could he have
Must
gone?
have.
Rosario Dawson is dead, right? So what is he gonna do? A full movie with what's the Elias? Like Elias works as that character. He wouldn't work in like a role where you need him to be more
Half the
involved
movie.
in the story. Exactly.
no.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that, I mean, it's probably the only way where who could have ended this, or both of them dying. I don't know, because it does have like a bittersweet ending, because you have Randall just by himself now, and he still hates that he works there, right? He's still the same guy that hasn't really grown much. So then at the end, it's just, well, now it's just me by myself. I have no one to rant to, and that's life. You know, it's not very cheery. It's kind of like this guy. I guess the message of him not appreciating Dante though, that like that whole fight felt very much like the fight that had on Clerks 2,
Yeah.
where it's like, I'm gonna tell you your truths, and the same truths I told you 10 years ago in the other movie, I'm gonna tell you again because you're a jerk. And then he's like, oh, you know what, you're actually my best friend, I'm gonna appreciate you, and then he dies. And it's like, all right, I have no idea where he could have gone to continue this, unless,
I think he just knew it was for the better.
yeah, it's just done. Especially if it took him how long? 15, 16 years to
That
make
was
this one?
2006, so it's
Yeah,
been 16 years.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's like, I don't want to be like a grandpa and shit, like doing this this story like anymore. Probably it's just
Hmm.
like
He was also probably sick of his fans asking for it, which is where I'm sure a lot of the push for him to make this came from.
You think so? I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, maybe. I don't really observe those circles quite like that, but I don't know. I feel like there hasn't been a cry for we need another Clerks that's been over the top anyway. I
Was
mean, if
there
anything, it's probably something like another mall, maybe another Mallrats. I don't know.
was there a cry for the Jay and Silent Bob reboot?
Fuck no.
no.
I don't think anyone wanted that.
What about the Weed animated movie that he made? You
I
remember
don't think
that?
he directed that. I think he only wrote
Oh,
that.
No,
oh,
I
You know,
don't
it's a
know.
good underrated Kevin Smith movie that got a lot of flack but doesn't deserve it. And got a lot of flack because it just had Ben Affleck in it. Is Jersey Girl. I thought Jersey
I
Girl.
don't think I've ever even seen it.
no.
A lot of people skipped that one because that was around the time Geely came out and it had that stench to it because
Mhm.
J Lo's in that movie too.
Yeah,
Is
And
that more like a traditional romantic comedy, I guess?
I guess so. I mean, it's not it's not overtly Kevin Smithy. There's no Jay and Silent Bob in it. It's I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of it's a little bit of Clerks 3, a little bit of maybe Chasing Amy, a little bit of Zack and Miri, but probably better done
Mm.
than at least Zack and Miri and most of Clerks 3.
All right. I'm not gonna tell you I'm gonna check it out, but I believe you.
Well, we're going to cover it next week on movies, so you won't have to worry about that. This is leading into our Kevin Smith
Yeah.
retrospective.
Good Yoga Horsers and Jersey Girl back to back.
I've given that Yoga Hosers movie so many chances to like maybe this time it'll work out. And no, it doesn't. Maybe now because Austin Butler's a star and he's in that movie. You know, maybe now
yeah.
it'll be good. No.
Never look him in the same way ever again.
By the way, if you check out any interview of his now, he just still talks like Elvis.
Yeah,
Have you guys seen that at all?
yeah, I saw that.
It's a little peculiar. It's a little strange.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
Um, but yeah,
I
Hans,
guess,
what would you give then? Would you say that Clerks 3 is a step down from Clerks 2?
I think fuck. I haven't seen Clerks 2 in a while, so I don't know if I will be as uncomfortable as I was watching this because of the humor. But uh, to me, it is just because of how much I enjoyed that one when it came out and how many times I've rewatched it, and I didn't really have a good time with this. It might have been, but I was gonna say it might have been because I watched it with ads and with not great quality and with an audience that would laugh at awkward moments and clapped at the end. But that's how I saw Elvis too, and I did like Elvis.
Well,
So
hold
I
on
think
now. I feel like if you're given something of a superior product, it's still going to shine through. Uh, I don't know if
well,
that's a good comparison to say, all right, well, we've got these two things side by side.
but what does that say about Clerks 3 then? Where
Well, it just means
it's
it's
not
not as good as Elvis.
it's not a visually appealing movie though. What am I losing from watching this copy that I wouldn't get from a regular copy other than better quality?
Probably Brian O'Halloran's wrinkles,
Right.
you
His
know?
very obvious makeup,
you
very
know,
sweaty face.
the third movie in the franchise always has the most responsibility and to wrap things up, and it's usually never my favorite. Like, even if you want to talk fucking Star Wars and like, Dark Knight Rises or whatever, like the third movie, I don't know if I can think of a time where I'm like third one best, hands down. Like the third one. Oh, I don't know. Actually, um, I just started that Dahmer series, and he's like watching Exorcist 3 in that movie or in the Netflix show. He's like, I watch Exorcist 3 every day. And this is why I'm so sick. And
Wow,
and
really?
then
How
and,
is that, by the way? Because I like, well, I'm not gonna say I like Dahmer, but I think his story is very
I
interesting.
saw the first episode, and honestly, like it wasn't bad. I saw the first episode, and then I saw the credits, and it said written by Ryan Murphy.
Yeah,
And I
that's
was like,
what
oh fuck! And then I was
yeah.
like, wait, this could be, but it's co-written. So I'm like, hopefully Ryan Murphy's not doing dick, and his co-writer is actually just good, and this is going to be good because the first episode was sweet. So I don't know, but yeah, I think Exorcist 3 is the shit. I just love that movie. And other than that, though, third movie is fucking hard to come through being like the best. I feel.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to
There's just so
put it all
much, you know.
together. Hmm.
There's so fucking much with the first two to like live up to the first two movies and then also tie everything together, and it just seems impossible.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head if any would fit the meet the criteria of being the best film in a trilogy. I don't think so though. I
Lord of the
mean,
Rings.
that one Best Picture, right? But that was really for the entire series.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't watched any of those movies.
Never? Or in
No,
a while? You've never seen them?
no, I've seen the Bakshi one from the late '70s or early '80s. That's it though.
Animated. Right. Ah.
What about the Hobbit movies? Wasn't that a trilogy? Maybe the third one was best.
No, there's two. There's only two, I
There's only
think.
two.
Yeah. It's
Oh.
fucking terrible. Uh, Godfather? Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. Back
Dude,
to
I
the
have that
Future.
on VHS, and it's like this fucking wide because each one is a double VHS.
Mhm.
So it's like six in a fucking box.
Takes up an entire shelf. Have you guys seen the re-edit that Francis Ford Coppola did of Godfather 3, Godfather Coda? I think it was released in 2020 or 2021.
I haven't, but I'd watch it.
I'm interested in checking it out, but I have not seen it. I haven't seen Godfather 3 in a while. All right, so then Mario, where would you put Clerks 3 as far as this trilogy goes?
Well, it has been a minute since I've seen Clerks 2, but I think Clerks 2 also worked extremely well for the time,
Mhm.
and like even the jokes and like the donkey show and just like, you know, fucking Jason Mewes was still fucking really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just like his character was just like fucking still on fire, I feel like. Um I don't know how his life was like doing on.
I think that was like the worst point in his life.
Yeah. Well, like we thought he still ruled, and then fucking now, but then it's like I feel like this movie, you know, it obviously works better for like the time period and like how it had to be a little bit more serious, you know, because he's yeah, I miss those teeth.
What the? Hold on. Scroll up, please. Go back to that first line of photos. What is that one? Yep, that's the one you're hovering up. What the fuck happened? Is that better or worse? He's got kind of like a Vincent Gallo shaped face in those photos.
Yeah, he
Oh
does,
man,
dude.
damn.
Yeah,
I
his
see
face
meth teeth.
has been through many faces. Yes.
Were they? Because I remember this. That just looks normal. You know, it's not
Yeah.
as jarring as like as that. You know. Oh, yeah. I don't know. That was the
Wow.
first thing I noticed in this new movie. I was like, oh Jesus, what the fuck? What is happening in his mouth?
Yeah, his teeth look painful to be in his mouth.
I don't know. I guess maybe right now I would still think back to Clerks 2 like being more enjoyable just because maybe it just like wasn't such a downer, and like I'm kind of like watching something end, and like maybe that kind of is a little bit of a bummer in itself, where like Clerks 2 was just like fun.
Mhm.
Like, and you know, I just felt like I was being entertained instead of watching like, you know, I'm watching this movie, but I'm also thinking about like Kevin Smith's like life and shit, and like it's just in my head it was way messier. Like instead of just like going to the theater, and like when I saw Clerks 2, I like I had like a MySpace and like put it in my top friends because I was stoked to watch. Like the official page was like
Mhm.
my number five top friend, and I was fucking excited. And like now I'm like, okay, I'm watching a conclusion of and it's this man that's like, I fucking made a movie, and he's just smoking the biggest fucking joint. I'm just thinking about him at his house, like, yeah, I made a movie, man. I fucking risked it all, and I'm just like, I can't. I don't even want to think about that. Like, I just want
Mhm.
to watch the fucking movie. It's hard.
And then the first one, it's kind of all over the place too. It doesn't really have much of a plot. It's a lot of just like, well, this is what happens when you work at a convenience store, and it's presented like that, which is why I think it works. Um, because the yeah, what's the main conflict there? They hate their lives, or they don't want to be there, right?
Right. That's
So
look. You kind of have to look at that one different, and not even really in line with two and three. Two and three have much more of a shared vibe than that first one.
yeah,
That first one arrived at a time where you had Kevin Smith, Richard Linklater, Hal Hartley, like all these guys going and shooting their movies themselves. And if you take a look, I mean, we talk about Kevin Smith's decline quite a lot. Richard Linklater's still making Hollywood pictures. Of those three guys, I probably think Kevin Smith's movies are the best
Yeah,
now, like currently now. Hal Hartley hasn't made like a good movie in a long time. Richard Linklater, he just kind of delivers very boring,
I'll never
uh,
forgive him for Boyhood. I'll never
uh,
forgive him.
so
I hope
painfully
I meet him
dull.
one day. Ooh, I hated
yeah,
that movie so much.
yeah. If you're gonna make a movie that's gonna take what 10 years to make, can you think of a plot that's interesting? Maybe something other than look at this boy, he's old now.
Dude, that was just an
Great. Yeah,
experiment for the fucking laboratory, not for
very.
I
fucking
was
movie.
so happy that Birdman beat that movie for Best Picture at the Academy
Yeah,
Awards that year.
yeah.
He has some movie out on Netflix this year that is it's in the same animation style as A Scanner Darkly. I think it's called like Apollo 11 and a half.
It's called Apollo 10 and a half, a
10 and a
space
half.
age childhood.
Yeah, sucked.
You saw it?
Yeah, I watched it because Kino said this movie's great. I love Austin, Texas. This movie's great. I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And I said, fuck this movie. This is a piece of shit. Fucking wasted 90 minutes of my time. Asshole fucking Kino. Liar. Liar. So I won't watch that movie again. Richard Linklater, I think he's just kind of a boring guy now. You know?
Mm.
Do you think that this movie, Clerks 3, is like 3 from hell?
No, I
Ooh.
wouldn't. I wouldn't take that big of a shit on it. But you guys have talked about the Rob Zombie, Kevin Smith kind of, and that's kind of what what I was getting at, like talking about like your debut masterpiece, and then you're just able to work forever. And like there was a time where like I think you could have a career that has like a long tail on it, and like now, even if you have like a fucking smash success, like you still have to follow it a couple times before you're like living on easy street.
Mm.
And I feel like in the 90s those guys kind of uh you know I don't know, it was just a different time. But I don't know, like how long did you have to kill it for back then?
I think the 90s is probably a more unique era because that was the first real instance of people picking up the equipment themselves and then selling their movies that they shot with their own money to other studios and being able to prove that they could deliver a feature for like a very inexpensive cost. Like I think even Chasing Amy, that was his third film after Mallrats bombed at the box office. He did that for a budget of like $200,000.
uh,
So you could, if I mean, and you also have to keep in mind the playing field was much more empty back then. So you're already picking from a pool of people that have proven themselves. Whereas now anybody can do that. Anyone can get in and out of there like it's nothing. And I think it's more difficult to sustain that sort of career because there are a lot of directors from like the past 10 years that do one or two movies, flame out, and then that's the last you hear from them. Like, what about the guy who did It Follows and Under the Silver Lake? That dude
yeah.
was a big up and coming budding director with A24. They didn't like Under the Silver Lake. Where is he now? Um, who knows what that guy's up to? So Yeah, I think that was probably the last real era where if you had one good movie, you could parlay that into just a long-term career in Hollywood doing
Yeah.
something.
They could wait. Like they could wait for what was next.
Yeah.
And now there's no fucking patience like that.
Now I only compare Clerks 3 to 3 from Hell because I think what the intention there was is pretty similar, and it also was released very similarly. Where it was a Fathom event. I guess they consider Kevin Smith unproven at the box office as of right now. They don't trust him to get a wide
Right.
release.
Right.
And Rob Zombie, similarly, I think what was his movie that came out right before that? Um, was it Lords of? No, it's
I think,
31.
I think it was called My Wife's Ass.
My wife.
It's That's a subtitle on all of his features. 31 was crowdfunded. That didn't do well. You can watch that on Tubi for free right now, and
Yeah.
it's really bad.
Is that his worst, you think?
I think I have it as his worst. And I watched The Munsters. I did watch The Munsters.
Damn, I'll still watch. I'll watch that.
I
The
just saw it.
Munsters, not as bad as the trailer looked. It's just, I mean, it runs like any one of these Netflix shows. To be honest with you, just feels like a weird long pilot episode to a series. That's it.
Is this like the end of like them there being guys that like will just watch any piece of shit they make just because it's them? Like, is that over? Like are younger people like are they gonna have anyone like that? Where like where I'm just down with Rob Zombie and Kevin Smith. So like if they put something out, like I don't even care if it's a piece of shit. I'm just gonna watch it just
Yeah.
because whatever. Like, do are people like younger than us going to have anything like that where they're like, yeah, I'm kind of rooting for this guy because I liked him, and then I'll watch his shit, whatever, I'll buy it.
I think that's definitely less so the case because of environments like Twitter and Letterboxd, where you get much more credit for shitting on a movie than you do for being like an ardent supporter or genuinely liking something. I think you get rewarded for cynicism much more on those platforms.
Definitely.
So there's less incentive to see how a director's career plays out. And also for the same reasons that we discussed only moments ago, where it's like they're not going to get the same opportunity necessarily from a studio where they're going to have the chance to direct a 15 to $30 million feature, because if that one flops, then it might not have a life on streaming and they might just be persona non grata after that.
Yeah.
So I think I mean, it's a different time, but I think film fans in general are much snarkier and they think they know everything about what there is to know about movies, and they'll point out all sorts of problems. Look, we do it every week on this show.
Yeah.
We shit on movies way more than
Yeah.
we
We like
compliment
them.
them probably, but
Yeah.
I still think we're pretty fair, or at
Mhm.
least I'm pretty fair, which is why I gave Clerks 3.5 stars.
Yeah.
I give him 1.5.
Yeah, as soon as I left the theater, I was like, Hans is gonna hate that movie. I know Hans is not gonna like this movie.
I also think the fact that everything is owned by Disney, or it's a big corporation that's in charge of a lot of small, or has absorbed a lot of smaller companies that maybe would have taken more risks that they do. Kind of got rid of that, because now the movies that they put out are movies that they know are going to return a profit, and a lot of those are not really director based movies. It's more like director for hire, so that they don't make it too quirky or too weird. So you didn't have and this is probably not the greatest thing to say, but you don't have a Harvey Weinstein anymore that's going to take risks with this indie directors, and just say, you know what, this work, and maybe not the same nice words, would say, this works, I like this, or I want to put this out, because he did help a lot of up and coming artists from that time
Yeah.
get their movies done. And who's doing that anymore? And now it's a corporation. It's not really a producer that's, we go to this guy because this guy puts quality. Now it's a Disney movie, or this is
You
Disney
don't
movie
you
because they
lose
own
out
everything.
on so many interesting filmmakers if you remove Miramax from the equation in the 90s. And that's just a fact. There's nobody who's really in that position now. Actually, that's not true. Jason Blum is in that position now, and he's fucking it up. He's picking the worst people, making the worst movies
Yeah.
imaginable. He's the only guy really that is like that. I think Jim Cummings is trying to be that guy, and it ain't working because he's thinking too big in scope, and he should just focus on directing. There's a couple of people that are like that, but they're not. They don't have the resources and the access that somebody like Weinstein had. So you're not going to get that in a similar fashion anyway until I think the whole studio system reconfigures itself and defines what the distribution process is going to be going forward. Because, I mean, in 2020 and 2021, it seemed like, all right, theaters are dead. Nobody's going to the theater. We got to focus on streaming. Let's greenlight a bunch of shit for streaming. But the whole play now is very different because of movies like Top Gun, where it's almost like the 1970s or 1980s, where less
Yeah.
movies are going to theaters and they're staying in theaters for longer. You know,
Hmm.
I saw Elvis whenever it came out. Was it May or something? And then I checked late in the summer. It was still playing in theaters. You know, that's something that was happening decades ago. So
Yeah.
I think it really, I think the narrowing of the field in that regard is going to be maybe helpful in getting better movies made and put out. But whether or not that translates into good or interesting filmmakers has yet to be seen.
So far, what do you think?
What do I think of what?
So far, how many interesting film? Is there anyone that would put a movie out that you would say, okay, well, it's this guy, so I don't care what the movie's about. I don't care who's in it. I'll go see it because it's this guy directing. Can you think
Kevin
of any?
Smith. I just saw that movie. That was Clerks 3. We're talking about it tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
No, he is on the list. Look,
Seriously.
I'll see, and it's really like a bunch of '90s filmmakers. It's Kevin Smith, it's Spike Lee, it's Rob Zombie. I know I'm going to be disappointed. I'll still watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who do you think modern Eggers maybe is probably one of the few that still have
I'm not even that
Refn
impressed with
Refn a
him, to be
couple of
honest.
years ago,
Yeah,
not
people
so
people
much
like
anymore.
Eggers, people like Ari Aster, the A24 darlings.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's about it, though. I mean, is there anyone not in horror that has that title? Who's just, maybe Damien Chazelle for now?
Yeah.
Until people get tired of his shtick.
Yeah, that trailer to Babylon didn't do it for me, and I was looking forward to that movie too. I like the cast. I love that Eric Roberts is somehow in there.
I
Um,
love that Eric Roberts is like these gigantic Hollywood movies, but at the same time, he's making like this direct to not even to be
mhm.
movies, just like direct to whatever I can put it
Direct to
in.
one man's iPhone. Yeah,
Yeah. That are shot in the trailer that they rented, that they're
yeah.
currently living in. Yeah.
I
There's
guess. Yeah. When you're fucking, once you get up there, when you're what, fucking 60 years old, 10 grand is 10 grand, and it really doesn't matter how you get it.
When you need
yeah.
to keep the alcohol going,
It's not
you
even.
gotta
I don't.
take it.
Look. I don't even think he's
Oh yeah.
drunk. I think he's. From what I've heard, this aligns with his stint on Celebrity Rehab. But from what I've heard from somebody who worked with him, he is a massive, like crazy, insane pot smoker, and does it just constantly around the clock to like a debilitating degree somehow.
Wow,
Um,
what?
yeah, it's not alcohol.
That's
I
not
mean,
the
he was
energy that.
clearly drunk during Night Walk,
Yeah.
which Mario, you got to check out Night Walk, the Mickey Rourke, Eric Roberts,
Yeah.
Sean
I've
Stone
heard you
film.
guys talk about that. I'll definitely
Yeah,
watch that movie. But
we'll
That's hilarious.
well, I
we'll
guess
cover it
that's
for.
where that's probably where Kevin Smith is headed then too, right?
I think he's already there. I think he's
Can't
yeah.
can't chill on the grass.
By the way, I don't know if you guys, Hans, you want to go to Mickey Rourke's Instagram and just pull up
Oh
this
yeah.
picture real quick? I mean, this is just an amusing post in general, but I have a theory about Mickey Rourke that I don't mind sharing on this pro. It'll be a controversial theory.
So
So,
when he's sprawled on the floor,
yes, the
I wish I
egg
was an
photo.
egg. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he's got a problem too. I wish I was an egg.
You can turn
Okay.
a hard-boiled egg into a soft-boiled egg and get in 3 minutes. Ha ha ha. No one's satisfied with 3 minutes.
Okay. Now, Hans, you want to? All right. So this is already funny by itself, but do you want to zoom in on those hands?
Oh boy.
Now, I sent this
Oh, it's
to
not gonna let me
Cisco.
because fucking Instagram
Oh,
sucks. Let
damn.
me take
All
let me
right.
take a screenshot of it. Hold on.
Yeah, please do.
These almost look like press-ons.
Yeah, they are pretty manicured nails that are on his delicate boxer hands.
Well, I know he likes to dress like a woman.
He like well, feminine,
Yeah.
you know. So my theory is this. All right, I think now Mickey Rourke worked with Michael Cimino, famed
Oh,
director of Year of the Dragon, famed director of The Deer Hunter, of
Yeah.
Heaven's Gate. Michael Cimino had a very mysterious change of appearance, kind of like Zac Efron this week. Have you guys seen Zac Efron's face?
yeah, he's a
Oh,
Lego person
Well,
now.
those nails look a little beat up on the pointer and middle, but
Yeah.
yeah, they are very 50-year-old woman.
yeah.
Yeah, Zac Efron is Dane Cook now.
Yeah. Well, my theory is I think Mickey Rourke is like soft trans in that I don't think he thinks he's a woman, but he wants to know what it feels like to be a woman.
All
He
right.
he does kind of
Well,
have a Chimino look to him. Is
I
Chimino still alive?
No, he died a couple of years ago. Michael Cimino started looking like a K-pop sensation in his later
yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and there's a very good biography that came out a couple of years ago called Cimino that details his relationship with a hairdresser, and she kind of outs him as at least a cross-dresser. Um, maybe more, but she noted his appearance changing over time. She would call him by like a girl's name and stuff, and he lied about everything. He was like, "Oh yeah, you know, I live in my parents' basement, and I just run a shop, and this." And he never like told her, "Yeah, you know, I'm the director of the Deer Hunter. I live in Hollywood." Um, I don't know. You think about a guy like Mickey Rourke, who's like the definition of masculinity for an entire decade, 1980s.
Gets
He's been
bored with
on both ends of both ends of the spectrum, and his complaint with Hollywood was that it's too soft. He had to go into boxing because it was too fake, too delicate, too soft. Now, as a 65-year-old man, I think he wants to just experience the other end of that. I don't think he's actually
ooh, the
believing
Carrera.
he's a woman. Whoa.
So if you see this, and then you see this picture of Mickey Rourke, you can really see the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a similarity to be had there in hair. And also, if you notice with Mickey Rourke, too, he can't grow facial hair, which has not been the case in the past. He will have it glued on. And we've watched some Mickey Rourke movies for Civic TV that were made in the past 5 or 6 years, and you can see the glue around the mustache
Is
and the
that like
beard
a
in those
side
films.
effect of like is that like a side effect of like some sort of like steroid or something?
I think it's from the plastic surgery,
Oh yeah.
um,
Just
getting his
melted.
face carved up.
Yeah, just melted those pores off or something.
Yeah, I think so. So I don't know. He's experimenting. He's awfully close to that Russian assistant of his. I think his
So
name is
like this.
Dmitri. Oh fuck, yeah, that's bad. Damn, that is really rough. That was like during Iron Man 2,
Yeah,
wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a
that's the
long
Iron
time.
Man.
Yeah. This is like right after the wrestler. Damn. Hans, you should grow a mustache like that and do your hair like that.
Triangular like that. I
Yeah.
can't grow that hair.
You might be able to on the sides.
Do you think the whale will be as good as the wrestler?
No, I think the wrestler's Darren Aronofsky's best movie. I think his best days are behind him now, but I think it'll be good. I think it'll probably be a return to form for Darren Aronofsky. I didn't like Mother, so
Yeah, the wrestler is fucking insane, and that is a movie that could probably make me cry without booze.
it's
That's how
great.
good that is.
I really enjoy Aronofsky's early career aesthetic in Pie and Requiem for a Dream, but I think The Wrestler is definitely his crowning achievement as a director. No question about it. But I'm looking forward to The Whale, although all we've seen from it is that one photo of Brendan Fraser. Everyone won't shut up about The Whale. It's just one photo out there,
Was he
though.
just eating, or was he boozing, or like was did he just fucking chill and eat for a long time?
Brendan Fraser, I think it's just fat. I think he was just chowing down.
There wasn't any like pills with the cheeseburgers or anything.
Anything's possible, but I mean, he didn't really ever fall off. He did didn't he do like an action adventure film and he looked normal in it? Then The Rock took his role in the movie for the sequel. I think it was Journey to the Center of the Earth, and that was like in
Black Adam.
2000. No, it
Yeah,
was
it
not
was us,
Black
I
Cat.
think.
No, it was not Black Cat. This was like 2008 or 2009, and then you see him pop up a couple of years later, and he's fat.
I remember his first return was in the DC show, right? When like
Doom
DC did
Patrol.
like yeah, when DC did their service that became just part of HBO Max.
Hmm. Yeah, he plays the robot on that. I don't know if he was actually required to do. I haven't watched an episode of it. I just know he plays a robot character on that show.
Right.
But then I saw him pop up in that Soderbergh film that went right to HBO Max, and he was so soft. He looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters in that movie with his
Oh,
giant hat and.
the like gangster type one
Mhm.
with fuck. Yeah. I don't think I like that movie.
No, that movie was not particularly good.
Apparently, he had a couple of surgeries that didn't work. Uh, Laminectomy,
Liposuction?
which is a way to take pressure off of the spinal cord or nerves,
Hmm.
and then lumbar surgery that didn't work, so he had to do it again. Went through a divorce, lost his mother, and was sexually harassed by another guy who was the head of the Hollywood Foreign Press
Or maybe he
Bureau.
just liked eating. Maybe he just couldn't stop eating. Maybe it was that. Maybe you don't
Yeah,
need a sob story for getting fat. Maybe shit happens and you just like sitting around and eating a lot.
Been
maybe
there.
nobody grabbed his ass or wiener.
Yeah,
Maybe he's just me and likes cake
yeah, he's
sometimes
got a
at
full
night.
cake ready to go.
Yeah.
Maybe he just keeps
Uh,
a little cake on the side.
Damn,
slice of
Are you Mario? Are you disappointed at all that we're not getting that Batgirl movie?
Oh no. Not really. I mean I like fucking Batman shit, so I guess like it would have been like more shit for me to consume, but I don't know, not really. I didn't have like extremely high hopes for that. I mean, I imagined it being just like a little bit of like a refined CW
yeah.
type thing, like slightly more refined. But yeah, I'm not like losing sleep over that.
That's what the word was that it was essentially more or less what you just said. I was just looking forward to having Michael Keaton back for a couple movies, and Brendan
Of
Fraser was
course.
going to be the villain in that. He was playing Firefly. It could have been real fun to see the fantasy of him scooting
Well,
around on a jetpack at his
yeah,
size. That
you
could
would have
have
needed
would
you
have
would
been
have needed
great.
a couple jetpacks.
Yeah.
But
Do you think that what this new HBO guy, is it Warner?
Zaslav,
Yeah,
Discovery plus Warner. Yeah.
what he's doing, I think it's even though all the fandom hates it, I think it's very good for business because he's just killing things that didn't really seem like a good idea to begin with, and then after you see the people that are attached to them, you're kind of like, this was just gonna end like the past couple of years where I feel like superhero movies are definitely in decline, and it's
Mm.
because of the type of stories they're telling and the people they're hiring for it. It's not really the best because they're just trying to stretch it as much as possible with who cares characters and who cares stories.
yeah,
So I think it's probably for the best that he's just like, you know what, this is fuck it, 90 million. Who cares? This is gonna be terrible. It's gonna be bad for us and whatever we want to do more. Uh, the Flash, though, I think it's interesting that that one's still going.
Well, that's because
Uh,
Ezra's innocent. Didn't you see all the charges have been dropped? He's an innocent man. Everybody was just
oh,
confused. It was a
all
big
right.
misunderstanding. That's all.
Man, it wasn't a
man,
cult. He just has fans.
man, oh man, I should have said I was bisexual long ago. I could go back to second grade. I would write down I'm bisexual on my homework.
You don't even have to prove it. You just, hey, I'll wear
Just
a
say,
skirt once in a
actually,
while. Yeah.
did you say he? That should be a they. That's all you have. I mean, that's all he really did. I think
Yeah.
I don't know if he's even like bye. I could have sworn he was married to a woman for a period of time. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I think he just like fucks couples. He gets involved with couples and fucks them and then grooms like children or so. I don't know. There's the thing with the 12-year-old girl that apparently I don't know. Things have cleared up with that too in a Massachusetts court. I have no idea. There's so much shit with Ezra Miller where it's just
Yeah, and then I like that didn't even seem like sexual though. It seemed like a weird like cult thing
yeah,
that
yeah.
he promised her like a way into like Native American heaven or something.
Did you see he wanted Susan Sarandon to make an apology to him at his altar, and that he believes like he's the next Jesus or something? I don't know.
I saw something with her involved in it. I know the
Yeah,
headline you're talking about, but I didn't. This shit's gotten so crazy with that man. Like I can't even click on anything. I'm like, yeah, it's
you're
nuts.
you're right though. It doesn't like all right. So a lot of these headlines kind of misconstrue what the facts are a little bit because it doesn't seem like there's anything overtly sexual happening with any of the participants. It's all like him like deeply manipulating these people and trying to like harvest something from that. I don't know. It's very strange and peculiar.
Yeah,
Was he
like
just
entering their home with a handgun on his waist, like really weird, like Alaskan cowboy weird shit. Like I don't know, is he like part uh something? Is he from like a tribe?
No, I think he's like
Like,
Israeli or something. Maybe I don't
like
know. I don't that
Miller,
I
Miller,
don't.
a very Alaskan
native?
man.
Yeah. So he was just playing himself, and we need to talk about Kevin. Is that
I guess
that's just
so.
who he
Yeah,
was?
that's the takeaway here.
Dude, man, that's the only fucking time that I thought that he was a great actor, or I don't even know. I liked that movie. When I saw it, I was like, yeah, this is cool. School shooter with a twist with the bow and arrow or whatever.
He's from Jersey. His
Just like
father is
Kevin Smith
Jewish,
of Clerks 3.
and
Oh,
his mom is Dutch and German. So nothing native about this guy
but
at
he
all.
wasn't even he was not even a practicing Jew. He just has the Jewish dad.
Yeah, because it has to be your mom, right, for you to be Jewish.
For them to
Sure,
consider,
it
yeah.
still
Yeah.
scores you points,
Oh yeah.
Hollywood, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't think he was lighting menorahs,
Well, he's got very prominent cheekbones,
and that's
so
all you need to
that's
do a
that
trick.
got Elizabeth Warren pretty far a couple years back. She skated on that, so maybe he was thinking the same. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the Flash, even though I've like spoiled myself on all the details from the test screenings that have been held. Although they're changing that movie left and right, like I feel like they're reshooting it every couple of months to just correspond with whatever the new WB plan is. I guess Michael Keaton's just going to be weeded out. I'm not even like sure if he's going to be in the final cut of that movie, even though he's been in the trailer. Like they wiped him from Aquaman, they wiped him from. I mean, all Batgirl got wiped, but his whole prospective career doing DC films as Batman is done.
Well, his voice was in the trailer, right?
Yeah, that
Don't.
was the big marketing point.
Yeah.
So he'll be in it, but I think that's the end of the road for him.
Man, I don't know what
Yeah.
the fuck the Flash is gonna be like. He's just running around Alaska, going into fucking different tiki huts with fucking guns.
Just running away from TMZ.
Imagine if he does
And,
something really bad between
Like,
now and next summer. Like, what if he kills somebody? What are
right?
they
Like,
gonna
there's a
do?
no. Here's what happens. There's a double murder suicide in Alaska or Hawaii, and then they bring in the CW Flash that everybody's been fucking asking for.
If that happened, do you think that Warner Brothers, with their infinite power and their ability to like get him off the hook on a lot of these problems, would then spin the murder suicide as something noble, so he can be the Chad Boseman of the DC universe? They'll do a Black Panther sort of thing.
Well, they would just have him run around the earth backwards as fast as he can and
Yeah,
bring
stop it from happening.
Chadwick Boseman back.
yeah. It reminds
Keep
me of
running
like
until Bozeman came back.
it reminds me of when Chris Benoit killed his family and killed himself, and the WWE still held like a memorial for
Because they
him
didn't know, yeah,
because
the
they didn't
same
like the
day,
details
yeah.
didn't come out yet. So they were like, "Oh, I can't believe he's gone. He was the hero of the
Yeah.
WWE."
Holy
Everyone's
shit, dude.
teary-eyed in a line, ringing
Yeah,
12 bells or whatever, and then the day after things were known, it's like, oh, he's never existed. You gotta
I've
erase him from
wanted
the
to
archives.
I've wanted to watch that two-part Dark Side of the Ring episode, but like every time I go to watch it, I'm like, like that might just be too dark right
too
now.
dark for the dark
Yeah,
side
like
of the
the
ring.
day hasn't come where I'm like ready for some true darkness like that.
That's like the one highlight of Viceland. I don't even know if that network's still on. Um, Dark Side of the Ring, and then they did like a spinoff, Dark Side of the '90s, which was all about like the Jerry Springer show and shit like that.
Mhm.
That's the one
Did
quality
like do one
product
about
I've
Chris
seen.
Farley or something?
Yeah, yeah,
You
I
know what
haven't
they need
seen
to
it,
bring
but
back? I love the '90s, and remember those shows?
why?
That was good.
Hal Sparks needs work. Michael Ian
Yeah,
Black needs work.
yeah. To bring him back into the pop culture, just get I love the 2000s, and it's just the same people.
They
That's true.
already did that.
There's a lot of
Oh,
comedians
did it?
that would benefit from those paychecks right now for sure.
Yeah, Brian
Is VH
O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson need something to do now,
is
right?
VH1 still a thing?
Yes.
VH1's still around. They're all still around. I don't know who's watching it, but yeah, I don't know what they're playing, like Real Housewives of Atlanta or something, Love
RuPaul
and Hip
and
Hop.
Dude, I was just watching a VHS of MTV's Aeon Flux or Eon Flux or whatever, and I was like, I couldn't believe that like this was like an MTV like funded like something that they like bought and paid for, and then like I was just thinking about like how like it was like an amazingly done like animated show, and just like and then I just like fast forwarded to like 16 and Pregnant reunion show, and it's just like damn, like we are really like just like sliding like quick with entertainment, like really quick, and I was just
Yeah.
like
See, I
what
did the opposite thing though. I watched 16 and Pregnant recently. And I was like, damn, this is great. How did we fall
a,
so hard from here?
I've never fucking seen that, but
Um,
well,
I mean I can get the gist of it, but
what were the cartoons they had that were like that? It was
it was Liquid
Spawn.
Television, right? I think was the program that spawned from, and then that got its own full series. But they did a thing where it was like little vignettes of different cartoons, and I think it was under the banner of Liquid Television,
yeah,
and Eon
they're
Flux
really
was the
surprising.
highlight.
Like the just like the artistic fucking just like quality, like the care that like they would like fully back, like this corporation was just like fully backing, and I was like, wow, that's really crazy that that even happened.
That is definitely something that I think has been lost with the animation being done specifically on computers. Now, a lot of it still gets outsourced to Korea, and they might have even done that back then. Um, but it's so easy to animate now, and you can see all of these conveniences in so much of animation these days, whether it's 2D or 3D or whatever it is. It all feels very like cheap and almost like flash animation, even if it's got like a nice budget behind it.
Yeah, I guess it's just money at the end of the
Hmm.
day. Money and time is just not worth the it's not worth it for people that make money.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's starting to get late over here. Do
I
we
got
want
some
to put a
cake.
cap on the program? Are there any final thoughts on Kevin Smith or on Clerks, on Ezra Miller, on Liquid Television, Hans?
Uh, that was a nice era to be a young 20-something-year-old when those things were
Yeah, I was
big.
like
Was I kid?
5 back then. I
Hold
think
on.
Mario was even younger than me. I
hold
think
hold
Yeah,
you
little
know
tadpole.
growing up with Beavis and Butthead as a 20-year-old, no, no, but I think we're lucky that, we were able to experience when channels were still taking risks with things like that, because even Comedy Central doesn't take risks anymore. It's not much comedy anymore, or Cartoon Network also doesn't take as many risks anymore.
how
So
about this for a risk? A famed program from when you were a kid is getting revived. Night Court is coming back to Peacock. Night Court.
What the hell is that?
You
never
know
saw that.
nobody know Hans.
No,
You
I never
love
saw
Night Court, don't you?
never saw that. No.
Well, that's I mean the main guy from that is dead. I don't know why they're bringing it back, but Night
Well,
Court is coming to Peacock this spring.
But I
we're
mean,
we're lucky to have. I guess that's the we're lucky to have these old men that make pieces of shit that we still like to see.
try to
Because
revive something that people might recognize.
Here's a question, actually, real quick. Did either of you guys ever see the Clerks sitcom?
no,
It starred Jim Brewer and some other guy, and it was like one episode played on Fox, I think it was, in '95 or '96, and it's nothing at all like Clerks.
what the hell?
I
It's
think it
like the
might
same
be.
font.
Yeah, it's all the same. It had one episode that aired, but they shot a few, and it was right after the movie made it big. I don't think Kevin Smith was involved at all. They had two different clerks. I don't even know if it was called Quick Stop. It's I think the full episode's on YouTube somewhere.
Saved by the Clerks. There's
I don't think so. I think
It's
it's
a,
just Clerks.
two pilot. The pilot is on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. You
well,
want to just pull up an image
uh,
of it real quick?
if Kevin doesn't have another heart attack, I'm gonna keep fucking driving 30 miles to see his movies and Rob Zombie too. And yeah, I guess we're just fortunate to have grown up with like people that we could like watch over time, and like I
Mm-hmm.
guess people don't have that anymore.
Yeah, I think eventually some will rise to
Somebody
the
will come
top.
around, come along.
Yeah, but that era of like you're getting 15 notable directors maybe in a decade. I think that time might be at least on pause for a bit. There you go. There's the Clerks that everybody loves.
Even the set looks nothing like like that convenience store. Just like convenience store set.
Yeah, what the hell?
So
Yeah.
yeah, that maybe that'll be a future episode of movies probably. All right,
All
Mario,
right.
you have any gigs or anything you want to promote?
No, I gotta book some shit. I gotta book some shit. I gotta put some stuff on Spotify. I got a couple things to do when I get back to Chicago. But yeah, no, I'm good.
Excellent. Well, how did the recent gig you did? I think it was what Saturday. How did
Yeah,
that go?
that was sick. I just basically just got together everybody that I like grew up with that plays music. Like, do you want to do something where we fucking grew up? And we did, and we set up the stage and everything. Set up the fucking stage ourselves, which was not super fun, but it worked. It ended up being totally fine, and nothing bad happened. Like it was a good show, and everybody had a blast. And maybe I'll do something again like that. Maybe downtown next time, because not everybody wants to come out to the suburbs. But we had a lot of friends and family come through, and I think now I got to set something up downtown.
That's awesome. That's terrific. And you got a music video you're putting together at the moment.
Yeah, as soon as I edit the rest of that.
All right. Well, we'll have to do another call, maybe not live on the show. We'll go over some stuff with that. If
Yeah, I'll need
yeah,
some pointers.
that's no
Get
problem
me
at all.
past 30 seconds.
Dude, I got to tell you something. Once we're speaking of like run times, geez, after we're done with the show. Anyway, all right. This has been movies for this week. I'll recommend Clerks 3. Hans hated Clerks 3. Mario, where do you fall on that?
I'll give it a 3 even stars.
All right, I guess I'm the most generous member of the panel tonight. All right, that has been movies for this week. Thank you for listening.